I was a young naval aviator flying A4 Skyhawk. Heard a poof. My cockpit immediately started to fill with smoke.
It was a bad weather day. We were flying lower than we normally would. And I got hit in the tail section by anti-aircraft fire. And sometimes airplanes don't fly very well with bullet holes in them.
I could hear boom, 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 boom. Fireballs coming at me one after the other, and then now everything's out.
I was supposed to come home in 7 months. And with 5 days before the end of my tour, I was shot down. I spent the next 2,103 days in communist prison camps.
I was put into a prison that the French had built, and it was called the Fiery Furnace, or in Vietnamese, the Hoa Lo prison.
We called it the Hanoi Hilton, just for a joke.
And it was hard. It was hard because of the conditions out there.
They kept trying to get information out of POWs, and eventually they did resort to torture. I was tortured on 12 different occasions.
They would run a rope from your ankles up over your shoulders, back down to your wrist, and you're wrapped up like a human pretzel. And then they would hoist you up to a hook in the ceiling and let you hang there for a while. That was what we call the rope trick. That's the main torture that we all went through.
Now, there's only two ways to go. You can die, or you can say, I submit.
First time they put me through that was rough. And I found out I wasn't a Superman, and I broke, and I gave them what I wanted. And when I came back from that first time, I felt lower than whale shit because I had violated my own standards.
I sure gave more than name, rank, show number, date of birth, and I felt very guilty about that. I felt very ashamed.
I remember going back to my cell and just crying and crying about, you know, I'd let my country down, my family down. And even now, it's a little hard talking about it. The thing that saved us, though, was this ability to communicate and find out that your situation was not unique.
And communication was absolutely life and death vital in the prison camp, that we could talk to each other.
Anytime they were caught communicating, you were punished. But you had to do it.
We had some smart guys that were shot down ahead of me, and Bob Shoemaker was one of them. And so they said, we got to get a code going. What it came down to was a 5x5 matrix, a 25-letter alphabet. If I wanted to say C, I would go dump, 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 dump. Top line, third letter over.
It was a very cumbersome code. But that was to become our basic method of communication.
The more we practiced, the better we got.
We would tap shave and a haircut, 2 bits. It sounds like this. And then the answer from the other side would be. So we knew there was an American there.
When you're alone in the dark, you need a baseline. You need to validate your sanity. You need somebody to tell you we're alive. The simple tapping on a wall meant 2 things to you. Number 1, I'm alive. Somebody's responding to something I'm doing physically. Thus, I exist. Number 2, somebody cares.
Through tapping on the wall, you know, we kept each other's spirits up. The key was keep talking. At all costs, just keep talking.
We finally got released in February of 1973.
The gates opened up, we marched out, we got onto the bus.
We got aboard that airplane, lifted off And the admiral on the fleet radioed to us, "Welcome home." The prisoners of war from Vietnam, I think, are pretty much the poster boys for PTG, post-traumatic growth. Because we went through a fairly stressful experience and came back without the affliction of PTSD. It is because we learned to work through that torture and the deprivation, the humiliation and loneliness and guilt.
No matter what happened, we would get on the wall and we would tap, what we were going through. Here's what they did. Here's what they wanted to know. When we went out and were tortured for propaganda, right away you let everybody know. There was no guilt on our shoulders. It was all left there.
I hope there are things that people can learn from our experience. All lives are filled with stress, financial or marital, or you've got to find somewhere in your guts to overcome all this stuff and to stand up and say, hey, life is worth living.
Men can stand anything, and I think that's one good way to define a person, if they just will not give up.
As the story of ex-prisoners of war from the Hanoi Hilton shows, sometimes we just need to tap on our prison wall and ask for support. This is exactly why Boulder Crest Foundation exists and why I am proud to be a part of this organization. The hard-fought lessons we learned are as valuable to this generation of warriors and public servants as they were 60 years ago. Now, we're on a mission to teach the science of PTG, post-traumatic growth, through training programs like Warrior Path and Struggle Well. And we want to remind everyone what we learned in the Hanoi Hilton, that struggle is a terrible thing to waste. With the right help, we can all make it through struggles in our life and become happier, wiser, and more purposeful human beings. Now, embrace the journey and struggle well.